Hi, Sinima.
Hey, Hora.
Welcome back to the session and episode 16 of Philosophers in the Therapy Room. I'm really glad that we could manage to just keep the recordings live and going and
Yeah,
continuous. I know that we both are very, very busy,
yeah,
and somehow it's another kind of a responsibility that we
yes,
took it for ourselves so
yeah,
seriously. But for me personally, this is my sanity.
I agree.
So it's a place that I can be myself and I can
Yeah,
philosophize and I can relate to the experience, my experiences in the therapy room
yeah,
as a therapist,
definitely.
and understand it in terms of the language that I learned about the
Mm-hmm,
world and the
mm-hmm.
relation to the world, and which is phenomenology and
Yeah,
philosophy.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we are going to talk about um, somehow a controversial
Position.
situation. Yes, as always.
Yeah.
We are talking about the feeling of sorrow and sadness
Mm-hmm,
and its position
mm-hmm.
and the very call and invitation of the whole world
Yeah,
to be happy all the time.
yeah,
So, a call for happiness from the society and from the outer world, and the struggle to settling in with the internal feeling of sorrow and
yeah,
sadness,
yeah,
and the willingness of people coming to therapy because they are feeling sad
yeah,
and they cannot get along with this feeling,
yeah.
and they look for a way to turn this sorrow
Mm-hmm.
and sadness to happiness.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, would you like to add some?
Yeah, I was thinking because, sometimes it is good to go back to basics and, just reflect on what's the point and purpose of therapy. Why do people go to therapy or even, try any kind of self help
Mhm.
when they're reading a self help book or something like that? And we have discussed a lot of complex emotions,
Mm.
anxiety, trauma, grief, and loss, and we thought, like, let's go back to really basic
Mhm.
emotion, which
Mhm.
is like sadness and happiness. That's
Mhm.
how people generally
Mhm.
understand
Yeah.
their mental state.
Yeah.
I'm sad, I'm happy.
Mhm.
The rest is kind of building more complexity around
Mhm.
it, and that
Mhm.
goes back to very basic. And sometimes people might have this idea in their mind, and maybe some therapists might also think in that direction, that the entire purpose of therapy, counseling, psychology, whatever kind of support you're receiving is basically to feel happy,
Mhm.
get to
Mhm.
your position where ideally you could be happy all the time.
Mhm.
However, we know that is a near impossible aim. So, what we will settle for is as happy as you can
Mhm.
be.
Mhm.
And, uh, so we are going to reflect on that idea whether the aim of therapy is actually to um, eradicate or
Mhm.
get rid of
Mhm.
sorrow and
Mhm.
sadness and increase pleasure. So, maybe is it something like where we keep decreasing sorrow and pain and
Mhm.
keep increasing happiness?
Mhm.
Is that what therapy is all about?
Mhm.
And we are going to take a position where we would say no,
Yes.
therapy is not about that. I mean, it is complex,
Mhm.
however, we would definitely position ourselves away from this kind of approach.
Yeah.
We do not agree that that's the point of therapy.
Yeah. So, I before going to the somehow dissecting that how these two works, I just wanted to give an explanation on the whole experience of sorrow
Yeah, that would be
and
good.
happiness. So, I mean, if we want to understand that what's going on to us when we feel happy and what's going on to us when we are sorrowful and sad, um, from a phenomenological perspective, we can describe this kind of feeling as as if the world in happiness presents itself to you as open,
Mm-hmm.
accessible,
Mm-hmm.
reachable.
Yeah.
The horizons of possibilities are quite open to
Yeah.
you. if you decide you can get it. So it's a very, the economy of achievement is plausible and possible. So the whole idea is when we are feeling happy, somehow this happiness is the result of the world being accessible to me.
Okay.
And I feel that the world is open to for me to reach it, to explore it, to navigate certain stuff that I am interested in. And my curiosity is totally open and it's completely accepted. The world is safe enough to be explored. The world is safe enough and secure enough for me to be curious about it. And in this curiosity about the world and exploring the world, I realize myself as someone can do stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Can achieve stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important to understand that happiness, it's about achievement.
Yeah.
That I can achieve stuff. So Husserl talk about the human experience as the experience of I can. And when we are talking about it's not about I am. He's not talking about personality. Actually, it's really important for us to notice that phenomenology never talks about psychological personalities. We don't have this idea of personality.
Fixed personality. You are an
You're
adventurer.
A people pleaser. People
exactly.
pleaser, or you are an explorer. You are a
introvert, extrovert.
No, we don't have that concept at all in phenomenology. Instead, we put everything around this possibility of I can. That this is you and the world, and the way that you can achieve according to your interest and orientation. This makes you who you are.
What kind of choices you feel are open to you.
Exactly.
What kind of options, and it is not about a fixed personality, but rather what I see before me.
Exactly.
So if I'm what do you call introverted, I see fewer possibility of gain or whatever you call it with engagement with people, presenting my ideas to them. So it's not my personality type, but rather what options I see before me.
Exactly. And how the world respond to my access to it. Am I invited? Am I being accepted? Am I being heard?
It's a mutual thing. It's not so much like what options I'm picking from there.
No.
It's
not
a two-way road.
True. It's not about your picking. It's about the possibility of having those choices and the security of achieving, moving toward it. So I would call that this horizon of I can, the open possibilities for me to move on to the world and grasp it, is make me joyful and feel happy because I could explore, I could achieve something in this movement. Because human being is all about moving toward a goal, and human being is a goal-oriented being. We have always, in every interaction, in every movement, in every thinking, we are moving forward. So we are goal-oriented beings. We are looking forward to make something happen. So in that goal-orientedness, if we can feel that I have achieved my goal, even if it's me reaching for the glass of water, there is a sense, there's a feeling that allow me to feel that, okay, this box is ticked, and that is happiness, and that is joy of achievement. So joy is really the affective translation of I can, I could, and I made it possible. So it's a affective representation of achievement.
Okay. I want to put it in a different language, the same idea, and we did discuss that we can bring hedonism.
Yes.
But I was also thinking, let's bring hedonism and Spinoza and Descartes together, kind of their of course, not the same philosophers, however, we can use some of these ideas together. So, hedonism is a very basic kind of like what you can call folk philosophy. However, it is also a very sophisticated way of presenting philosophical ideas. And basically, hedon, Greek hedon means pleasure. And so the idea that hedonism presents is that basically pleasure is the moral idea. Pleasure actually gives us the moral compass. Now, how does it say it does that? So Bentham has this very interesting statement that nature has placed mankind under two sovereign masters, pleasure and pain.
Yes.
And your nature tells you to avoid pain and seek pleasure.
Yeah.
And what it is, like what you were saying earlier, I was trying to link it back to what we saw with Spinoza and Descartes when we were doing a little bit of, I think, I don't remember which.
It was affect. And
affects,
yeah.
So they talk about this idea of conatus, which is basically everything in nature tries to move towards things that increases their potentiality, their possibilities, their what works best for them, and everything tries to get away from what is harmful, what is decreases their create possibilities and potentiality. And they put desire and aversion into that language. We desire whatever increases our potentiality, and we are averted by whatever decreases it. Now, Spinoza and Descartes never put it in the language of pleasure and pain.
Yeah.
They have a much more complex understanding of conatus, but when you come to hedonism, it puts it plainly into that language, that as human beings, what our nature tells us that go towards anything that you find pleasant. You should increase more and more, and whatever is painful by nature you want to get away from that. So that is basically the moral idea in the end, that as human beings, this is what my nature tells me, so we should seek whatever gives me pleasure because it increases my possibility, and I should avoid whatever gives me pain. Now, pain is tolerated insofar as it increases pleasure.
Yeah.
So if I go to gym, it's painful.
My muscles.
Yeah, my muscles hurt. It's it takes up time. However, this pain is tolerated because it will give me healthier body. It helps me live a longer life, better quality of life. So this pain is tolerated only and only because it leads to much more longer pleasure. And that does work in all different ways. Whatever pain, like you pain and work through your job that is miserable, however it brings you money, that helps you buy a house, get a car, get food. So every pain is tolerated insofar it gives you much more higher pleasure. So it's just, you have just these two currencies.
Yes.
And it's an economy of exchange. Like I exchange my work, my labor, everything to get more pleasure, and I agree to take a little bit of pain as long as in return I'm getting more pleasure. So that's where the idea of happiness fits into this picture, because pleasure somehow is seen as that increases my possibility, my engagement with the world, and pain and suffering is something that decreases my possibilities, my openness to the world. And so I accept it insofar it actually opens possibilities in another way. So would it be a more commonsensical way of presenting it?
Yes, I guess we are really looking at same phenomena in the human experience, but from two different perspectives. One is the perspective of, or we can describe it. Maybe that's a better explanation. We are describing it with two different languages. One is the language of action, and which is conatus, potentiality, Husserlian I can, achievement, gain. And one is the language of affect, which is a joy of gain, happiness of
what
gain.
What
you feel. So it's a more affective language and a practical language of the capacity and potentiality. So we are exactly explaining one phenomena or one exchange with the world, a dynamic movement of the human being toward the world and world in return. But describing it how the human being can affectively experience that, and how practically experience the world. I
Yeah.
experience practically the world as open, achievable, accessible,
Mm.
and in return, I feel it happy,
Yeah.
as if I am happy,
Yeah, I
as
get
if.
that.
I think this concept of as if, it's a very interesting kind of a terminology in phenomenology and existentialism. It is as if I am happy, as if I am joyful.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, uh, when you said that, and I do not agree with Sartrean exploration of emotions, but he does put it in a way where, what is, like, when he talks about joy, he talks about that joy is not exactly that, the idea that I got, for example, this kind of, or even pride that, everyone is praising me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's basically trying to bring all those moments and possibilities together
Mm-hmm.
in one bundle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what
Mm-hmm.
you're experiencing, because when everyone is praising me, it makes me, a lot of other possibilities open up. I
Exactly.
can put it on my resume, for
Yes.
example,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I could get a lot of likes, which can
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
actually expand the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of who I can connect into the
Mm-hmm.
future. So all of these possibilities kind of saturated in one moment,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you feel joy.
Mm-hmm.
So joy is not exactly just, because you said you're amazing.
Yes.
It's basically,
Yes.
this actually showed
Yes.
me that these are multiple possibilities, and they
Exactly.
are
So
saturated.
it's
Yeah.
really interesting. So somehow, happiness and joy is the affective realization of that possibility.
Yeah, exactly.
So affective realization of that, and then intellectual realization and the
Yeah.
existential realization
Yeah.
of that opportunity and potential. So it's just we are just using different languages because we have body and we need that affective language because we have the body,
Yeah.
and this body really speaks in the language of affect.
Yeah.
So in terms of my relationship with the world, I have an existential relationship with the world, ontological, existential, practical, intellectual.
Yeah.
But the way that me as an embodied psyche or embodied intellect really live the world is my understanding also attached to my body, and that is the language of affect. So I need that.
Yeah.
And because it is so immediate, it is very, very important. The language of emotions is pro-reflective. We don't really.
You just feel it.
You don't feel it.
Yeah.
It is immediate, intuitional. It's there.
Yeah.
However, the existential language, the practical language, the intellectual language needs analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's another level of interaction with that, with that realization. So that's why we stick to the affect language normally, and we describe ourselves, I am happy, or I'm not so happy, I feel blue, or I feel really joyful. This made me feel that I can cherish the moment. It's full of joy. So it is easier for us to speak this language because it's very close to us. It's immediate language that we can speak without extra analytic reflection on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess that's very important, and I want us to explore the idea of happiness and at the same time loss, and I'm gonna talk about loss. Sorrow.
Yeah.
In terms of, while I explained happiness in terms of achievement, open possibilities of having capacities, achievement, it is promised, and you can see that that promise is going to be true.
Yeah.
At the same time, on the other part of at the end of the spectrum is the economy of loss and the disclosure of the world as not accessible, as not safe enough to explore, as not promisable, as not being open for possibilities, as deemed with vagueness and uncertainty.
Yeah.
I cannot see the boundaries clearly. It's a mostly vague
Mm-hmm.
relation to the world that you feel that you don't know how
Yeah.
to navigate this
Yeah.
world. It's a chaos. It's a
Yeah.
chaos of not knowing how to
Mm-hmm.
proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, this when the world is not accessible to you in a safe and secure way, it's so you cannot really explore yourself in terms of I can.
Yeah.
Whatever you experience yourself, in you only experience yourself in terms of I cannot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, however, you had a goal.
Yeah.
We are goal oriented beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't actually experience yourself in the same way as I can. You experience yourself as I cannot. And plus, I wish I could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
There's
you
a sense
had
of
that
loss.
goal.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had that goal. So it's not only the closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
but actually you wished for something behind those
Yeah.
closed doors,
Yeah.
behind those gates.
Yeah.
So your goal is felt as lost.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't reach that goal.
Yeah. Let's take a very simple example. For example, I applied for a job
Mm-hmm.
and I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the happiness is coming
Mm-hmm.
like very obviously because I got the job. It gives me the possibility of exploring what I wanted to do, gaining money,
Mm-hmm.
gaining position. So that getting that job itself is not the joy. The joy is all that will come
Exactly.
with it. You can take it into very simple examples. I go and buy ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mhm.
joy is coming from the taste and flavor
Mhm.
and the kind of like bliss I will
Mhm.
feel when I eat it. And that's where, the pleasure is. It's not basically the pleasure of just getting the ice cream, but what it promises,
Yes.
what it will
Exactly.
open up. Now, if we look at the sorrow, if I go to the shop is closed, I cannot get ice cream. Very obviously.
Disappointed. Yes.
The
Yes.
disappointment is because I was hoping to
Exactly.
experience certain things, but now the world has closed those possibilities on me.
Exactly.
I cannot experience that, and I'm not sure what awaits me.
Mm-hmm.
When I lose a job, first of all, I lose those opportunities, and at the same time, I'm not sure what other opportunities are there. So there is a sense of I cannot, and then also a sense of this vagueness.
Exactly. What else?
What else
Yeah.
is there? So basically, it is not the thing itself, but rather the possibilities it brought
Mm-hmm.
or took away that we experience
Exactly.
as pleasure and pain or happiness and
Exactly.
sorrow.
So in sorrow, what you experience is a loss of a hope, loss of a goal that's supposed to be reached
Mm-hmm.
and achieved
Yeah.
and gained.
Yeah.
So really, happiness is all about gaining the
Mhm.
affective realization of the gain,
Mm-hmm.
and sorrow is the effective realization of the loss.
Mm-hmm.
It's the loss of a supposed gained goal.
Mm-hmm.
As a goal oriented being, look, we do not move without having
making
a goal.
projects. Yeah.
There is a project that we are always in it continuously. We are evolving this project. Yes, that goal might change constantly, and
Yeah.
definitely changes
And
constantly.
then there are some goals like which are higher ones, like your, for example, what you do with your career, with your life,
Yeah.
with your health.
Yeah.
Smaller goals. I want a cup of water.
Exactly.
I raise
Exactly.
lift my hand.
Exactly.
I get there. I lift it up. I drink it. So that's a smaller goal. Me moving towards an object, but we are always intentionally engaging with
oriented
the world. Yeah.
toward the world.
Yeah.
There is something that we want to reach.
Yeah.
And in that reaching, there is a kind of a code telling me that you have achieved or you have not achieved. You have not achieved means you're feeling sorrow.
Yeah.
Me feeling sorrow means I have not achieved something that I'm supposed to achieve.
Mhm.
So it's a very, we are talking about sadness as primary emotion.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not that simple. It's a very complex emotion
Yeah.
because it's showing us a very complex economy of gain and loss
Mhm.
that we have lost
Something.
something in that, a project that's supposed to be finished, a goal that's supposed to be reached,
Mm.
a horizon that's supposed to be explored
Mm-hmm.
and navigated. So it's not a very pleasing um, realization in terms of
Mm-hmm.
your position toward the world.
Mm. What, like because we discussed happiness and sorrow more as kind of like achievements here, but let's take a pause for a minute, because quite often our sorrows are not about a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
could be more about a person, losing someone, or just losing, for example, your youth,
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
health.
Mm-hmm.
So how would we place that in that kind of an understanding? Because it's not about a job or an ice cream or a thing that I wanted to achieve.
Exactly,
Yeah, I
exactly,
lost something.
exactly. I want to bring Freud here
Mm-hmm.
and his notion of sadness and sorrow and
Mm-hmm.
mourning and melancholia
Okay.
that he talks about in his book. So he describes sorrow and mourning as the experience of the lost object.
Okay.
I have a relationship to a certain object, and that object is lost.
Mm-hmm.
Me, for example, me reaching, you did it now. You reach for the cup and imagine that that cup was empty.
Mm-hmm.
So the and lost object is the water which is not in
Not
that.
there.
So you feel disappointed. There's a lost object
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you experience the object which is lost.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about mourning in terms of a conscious realization of the lost object.
Yeah.
You know that you're consciously aware that that the object that you had relation to is lost,
Mm-hmm.
and you are missing that.
Yeah.
So it's an outward kind of a feeling. It's an outward position
Yeah.
toward the object which is detached from me. It's not me.
Yeah. Something in the world that I was
Exactly.
attached to.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we had a friend visiting last week, and then those friends left for a few days. I was
Exactly.
very down because
Mm.
they were not in the space that they were there, and then
Mhm.
they are gone. So there's that
Exactly.
loss of that person
Exactly.
from the space. Like, they are there in the world, but not in my vicinity anymore.
Somehow it's the experience of an absence.
Yeah.
The absence of the object.
Person, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
whatever you want to call that. You can put everything on
Mm-hmm.
in the place of object. And he describes melancholia as a shadow of the lost object on the ego.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow that loss is internalized,
Mm-hmm.
and it shadowed my ego
Mm-hmm.
with the same capacity that the object was occupying
Yeah.
the world outside.
Mm-hmm.
Is now that shadow is occupying my ego,
Yeah.
and it's really affected my
Yeah,
ego.
it's very like, it's inwardness now,
Exactly.
not at all external
Exactly.
outwardness.
So
yeah.
it's an inwardness that you in melancholia you experience. And Jaspers, for example, talks about this melancholia as a mood.
Mhm.
So you feel the shadow, the darkness, the loss, but it is not conscious. You don't know what is
yeah.
exactly. This is the shadow of what.
Yeah.
You feel the shadow.
The shadow
you feel
is
the
not a
absence.
presence.
No,
yeah, shadow
no.
is not
It's
like
an absence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an absence.
But it kind of overcasts, covers everything underneath, but it is still not something that you can see.
Yes.
It's not
You
like
don't know what is the point of reference of that shadow.
Yeah.
You don't know what is this shadow of what lost object outside. This is very, very important. And then Jaspers talks about it as a melancholia. It's not only an emotional experience; it's a mood.
Yeah.
Because this shadowed ego actually experience the world as very closed off.
Yeah.
The world comes to you as closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
The gates are not there, vague and ambiguous. So, and then when I was exploring that, I thought that okay, but let's put it into the language of phenomenology. Somehow, in phenomenology, you never experience the world as accessible. The world is accessible in a modality of inaccessibility. So, yes, the object, the loss of object in the loss, in the economy of loss, is experienced by us, but not as loss of object, as the loss of part of us in relation to that. So you always somehow experience the loss of self with the loss of object. And whatever you're mourning is not the loss of object, it's a loss of a part of yourself that you realized yourself with that in relation to that object that is lost. So I guess in that sense I was thinking, okay, I understand that why melancholia is deemed as mental illness and sorrow and mourning, because one is conscious activity, and Freud talks about the grief work. So this is a work that is consciously being doing by the psyche to resolve the loss of the object. You try to resolve this lost connection.
We talk about stages of grieving that a person goes through, and kind of gets to the point where they accept the loss of that object.
So they make a room that this relationship is
over.
Is not done. It's done. So there is no relationship. It's the absence of relationship. But in melancholia, the whole world is affected by that mood, and the world is. I find myself in a world which is closed to me. It's not accessible to me. So that's a very different attitude in sorrow and the loss. But in terms of how whatever we are going to, for the reasons that we come to therapy, mostly we realize melancholia and depression, and we put it in one category in terms of a depressed person experience the world as deemed with no accessibility, no tangibility, no interest. Inside and outside, there is no interest. There is no ignition of any interest from any side. So I can put it aside. But in terms of conscious and unconscious, and we are thinking about, imagine that I feel the sorrow of losing an object. So it's the loss of the object, the grieving the loss of the object. But I somehow experience a loss of a self in relation to that object. We can have two positions here in terms of the lost object. Whether I know what is exactly that lost object is, so it's a loss of job opportunity, loss of a family member, loss of a loved one, loss of my pet, loss of my health, specifically health. Loss of my some of my senses, loss of a body part. So any loss that we can actually think about. But there are some losses that we don't know exactly what is the object that we are lost, but we feel the sorrow. The feeling of sorrow is there. But we don't know what is exactly is referring to. What is this object that is lost and I am grieving for? Here, this is the problem that people come to therapy mostly, because they don't know what is this object that is lost. Not so we are coming to therapy somehow because we don't know exactly what's going on with us. We come to therapy because this is a very intolerable, uncomfortable position to be. Grieving is a very, very hard work to do. And it hasn't started to feel as a shadow on my ego. Look, we haven't really reached that point. It might not. But it's a middle ground of we are still in a mourning process. So we feel sorrow and sadness as a kind of a feeling of a lost object, but it might not be known at that object. So the object is unknown to us, but I still can feel it. So the intolerable part of loss and sorrow and sadness is not knowing what I have lost.
Yeah, and I think it is good to put it into a different kind of language, because sometimes people think about, like, a loss of something and loss of object as if, like, if someone's father dies, you know that the loss is basically my dad died, and that's it. But actually, we don't mourn the death of the father. We have discussed it in the past, that what I'm mourning is basically the part of me that died with him, the part of me that is not
was a
accessible.
daughter to him.
Yeah, and what exactly is that part? Sometimes we are not aware of it.
Exactly.
I was actually recently going through some kind of experiences which were very unexplainable to me, because, and I'm still trying to process it, that, I just, things are normal, but you still don't feel normal. And sometimes I was thinking, is it midlife crisis? Okay, maybe, getting into your 40s, realizing that your youth is gone. You're not yet old, but you're not yet young either.
Yes.
Is that all of that? However, now I'm coming to some of the realizations, especially as my son is growing, that I'm missing part of me that was a mother, really engaged with that child, who depends on you. Now he's becoming so self-dependent that I'm just, very, I was looking forward to a time that I can be on my own, but now I'm missing that part as well. I'm not yet sure that is that the reason I'm so uncomfortable, but this loss is very real to me. My son is near me, he's there, he's flourishing, everything is fine.
And Saima, I just want to make a note here. It wasn't obvious for you until you sit with the sadness.
Exactly.
You realize that, okay, I'm not feeling okay.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I just want to explore where is the reference point of this feeling. Can I experience and explain this feeling that's affect in me in an intellectual language?
Yeah.
In an existential language.
Exactly.
So you sat with the experience.
And you need to notice what's going on. The other day I was like somewhere, and the little kid was playing, and his voice reminded me of the voice of my son, because he had a little bit thicker voice. So, I just remembered how he used to talk when he was a toddler, 3-4 years old. And all of those things kind of make you aware of, okay, this is what I'm missing. This is what, and this is part of growing, this is part of living in the world. Yet at the same time, like, you wish your child grows up. No parent would wish their child to remain a child. You wish them to grow up. However, when they are growing up, at the same time, there's part of you that starts dying with it.
Yes, very much.
That is the loss.
Yes.
And that is a loss that, it's not obvious, because the child is there, the child is flourishing, the child is happy, you have a good relationship with them. So then why is this feeling there? And that's kind of, I'm not calling it melancholia, but that's a loss
that's a sorrow.
That's a sorrow that I could not identify.
Yes.
I could not find, because there's no clear object.
Exactly. So the object, definitely it was an object there.
Exactly.
Because I feel the sorrow. So if I understand, and I explained that before, that we experience sorrow in the economy of loss. So this is the affective language of the loss of an object.
Exactly.
So, but what is that object? That object might not be so clear for us. Maybe we take it for granted, that object, and we never knew that we had a relation to that object. And sometimes these losses, the object that is lost is not that obvious to us. Either we take it for granted, or it's not actually belong to a reflective world. And Julia Kristeva, French philosopher, I think she's Czech, philosopher and feminist, she talks about the losses that are ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
So those objects belong to the pre-reflective world of experience.
Yeah.
The experience that happened in a world that language was not belong to. It's pre-verbal, pre-reflective. So it is pre-language.
Yeah.
So it cannot be easily grasped, described, explained in a linguistic manner.
Nobody else doing that,
so there is no word for describing that object.
Yeah.
Either I don't know that object, but there are some objects that cannot be even explained in a verbal way.
Yeah.
We cannot name it because it happened to us and we had a relation to that in our pre-verbal stage of life.
Yeah, exactly.
So the loss of these objects again makes us feel sorrowful,
exactly,
and sad, while we cannot easily pick that what was it that I feel that I have lost. I about 3-4 months ago, I've attended a music program and a concert by Max Richter, and probably our audience know him, and he has a couple of very, very famous albums, one of the Blue Notebooks, and I was thinking about, I was totally emotional. I cried several times when I was listening to the concert, and I was thinking, what is this thing that I am feeling? Why I cry? And I realized that I guess the only thing that I could explain my feelings and my experience was, it seems that I'm mourning certain losses that I never knew that existed. I never knew that I have lost certain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have lost, and I was so engaged with the world that I've never managed to grieve for them. For me, it seems that I am grieving for certain losses that I never knew that existed. But it hit me and it brought up those feelings of I am losing certain stuff and I have lost certain stuff, but I never managed to be engaged with it. So, and I realized that that's it because I'm crying and I'm sobbing exactly the way that I am sobbing for a lost object. Exactly. That was exactly the same feeling. So it's not telling me lie. I need to realize that, okay, what is it that I'm feeling in relation to this way? That was really, really interesting for me.
I mean, and it's interesting because in the sense that music is also non-verbal.
Exactly.
Music is kind of interacting with your memory, brain, soul, everything, without actually the capacity to be reflective.
Exactly.
And actually like attached to words. I mean, I struggle with music for that reason, because I cannot engage with non-verbal, and it is chaotic. It is confusing.
It is.
And that's what you need. You need to shut down the verbal and sit with the non-verbal, because it brings up something non-verbal within you.
That is great. I mean, that's a very interesting feedback on it. I never thought about that. I said yes, probably there are. This is the language of the certain object of the world that belong to the non-verbal, that's an interaction in that realm. And I was thinking, okay, so I guess now we describe that why we feel sorrow and we feel sadness, and why it is important to sit with this feeling, because it's talking about a lost object that might not ever been introduced to you. You might never been ever thought about that there is an object and I have certain relationship to that object. It's maybe a totally non-verbal pre-reflective object of relation. Then I understand that we come because sorrow and sadness is very, very uncomfortable. It's a very unsettling feeling. And we don't question. Look, as a philosopher, we can question why, but That's not our project today,
Yeah.
at least. But then why is beside the unpleasantness of that, why people feel that the world does not like to include them with this feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Why people
Okay.
come to therapy and saying that everybody's telling me that you're so sad, why are you so sad, why you are not you enjoying the world, why can't you be happy? So there is a call for happiness
Yeah.
constantly, in
Yeah.
my face, and I cannot find myself belong to this world. So I feel a chaos and I feel a conflict between the world of experience, the inner
Yeah.
experience, and the call that comes from
Other
outside.
people, yeah.
So people come to therapy to realize that, to understand that, look, this is my mission. I just want to pass from this
Mm-hmm.
sorrow
Mm-hmm.
and be happy again, so I can be included
Yeah. Fit
in
in.
the world, fit in. So, you go through that?
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking, like, let's just think about as a parent when we see our child unhappy and comfortable, how soon we try to jump in and fix it.
Exactly.
We want to make them happy again.
Exactly.
It is so unsettling for us to see that they are unhappy. The same goes for anyone around us. We say, yeah, we are here for you if you need anything. But we are actually hoping for them to actually take whatever time they need, but then come to a homeostasis where they are
Exactly.
really happy and become engaged with the world.
Exactly.
Somehow, being unhappy and being sorrowful seems like you are out of the world.
Exactly.
You're not embracing the world, and the world is closed off to you. And in order to return back to the world, you need to leave your sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You need to shed your sorrow,
Yes.
and then come
Yes.
into the world.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's where it's and that's why we started the question whether therapy, at
Exactly.
least the way we do therapy,
Mhm.
is where we want people to actually move past sorrow and come to a state where they can be like ideally absolutely happy without a shed of sorrow and pain,
Yeah.
or the best level of happiness they can achieve,
Yeah.
and the least amount of sorrow and pain in their life. And we started with the proposition very clearly in the beginning that we don't think that's the
Yeah.
case. And I think so far that we have described it so deeply, it has become a little bit clearer to our listeners that we do not find sorrow as a lack, as some kind of a blemish on our life, but rather it's a very, very complex emotion.
Yeah.
It has a place in our life, and now we would explore what's the place of sorrow in our life.
So I guess by now we really try to explore that. Okay, sorrow gives me a clue about myself that I am grieving.
Yeah.
Unconsciously, I am grieving. The loss of an object, which is an conscious, tangible object which is lost. A grieving is very, very it's valid and it's obvious.
Yeah.
However, with an object which is reverbal, which is not exactly been known, never named, that is a loss that we could really we will not realize it easily.
Yeah.
However, our psyche goes through.
Your body tells you. Your
Exactly.
psyche tells you.
Your psyche goes through the grief, and the sadness. It's a call. It's a relation and an affective language of that psyche in a grief to you. That look, you're not doing fine because you're grieving. Allow yourself to go through that process. So, but then why we cannot find, if that's very natural, very normal, very human to go through the grief, why we are not allowed to do that? Why the world and our people and our friends and our workplace, we have people losing their family members, and we're expecting them to get back and have a smile on their face after a week. And if something goes wrong with this week, within that week, and it gets extended, we say, oh, okay, probably this person needs help.
Yeah.
we do not even allow those people to saturate in that experience,
Yeah.
let themselves absorbed by the experience,
Yeah.
to follow it, to go through it, to come healthy and fine at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
We're just feeling so uncomfortable
Yeah.
and so anxious about this feeling.
Yeah.
I think the world is a very, very anxious world about the whole idea of sorrow and
Sorrow
grief.
and happiness. Yeah. And I was also thinking about, like, even when people are patient and they say that, take your time, take as much time as you need, the idea is that, take as much time as you need, but eventually get to a state where
Yes,
you are past that sorrow. And so,
exactly.
why do you think, where do you think it is coming from? If, feeling sorrow, loss, pain is part of, who we are, is it natural for us to try to get to a position where we are beyond sorrow and pain, or is it coming from somewhere else?
So, I think that would be the controversial part of this this episode. But I put myself there, and I'm happy to be shout out. But this is what I really believe in that, and I think as a feminist philosophers, we both strongly believe in that. That look, philosophically, historically, and phenomenologically, we understand ourselves as social beings. So, what does that mean? This means that our meaning, the construction of the meaning, and we explained this several times in our previous episodes, that we are co-constructive beings. What
Yeah.
does it mean? So, this means that we construct meaning in a relation with the world.
Yeah.
World and us, we both construct the meaning out of everydayness
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So it's a that is why they called co-construction. So it is not something that only happens to me. It happens to me in relation to the world.
Yeah.
So I want to get it back to Jaspers, and he describes that this world of meaning, this construction of meaning, or the co-construction of the meaning, every meaning has a partly me in it,
Yeah.
and partly world in it.
Definitely.
What is that world? Is the world of we.
Yeah.
It is not only me, it is the me and others.
Yeah.
So I always, in every part of meaning that I am making as a meaning maker, partly is me, so it's my contribution to the world, but actually a very huge part is coming from the world, and that world of we, the community, the society, the culture, the normal that is out there. They say, look, and that part comes, and I dialectically make this meaning, part me and part we.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I want to even understand what does my sorrow means, it is not only me putting the meaning out there, it's a huge part of this meaning making comes from the outside, which I belong to. I belong to a we. I belong to a collective society out there. So part of me try to understand, what does it mean to be sorrowful? What does it mean to grieve? What does it mean to sit with this emotion? But the huge part comes from outside, the call that, no, you're not allowed. There is no room for sorrow. Your world does not allow you to just contribute your sorrow there. I want something else. I want your productivity. I want your happiness. I want you happy, because happy means that you can produce, that you can explore the world, that you can be curious about the world, that you can make something happen. I want you to gain. So I will not allow you to sit back and be passive and stay with your experience. Sorry, that's not allowed. And I brings someone else. He's a Indian British feminist philosopher, Sarah Ahmed, and she talks in her book, The Promise of Happiness. She talks about happiness as a colonial project. So this is the project of the colonizing world. How? Because I want productivity.
Yeah.
If you sit with your sorrow, and if you sit with your sadness, if you go through grief, there is a disruption in the time of production. You cannot be exploited when you are sad. Sorry, you will not give me any product. You do not give me any achievement. You will not produce.
Because the world doesn't open up as I can
Exactly.
when you're sad.
Yes.
It is
yes,
more
you
like a
don't
world
do.
of
You
I
don't-
cannot.
I cannot. You somehow give it a pause because you are actually engaged in inner work
Yeah.
of grief work, as Freud's talking and suggesting. So somehow your life is seen from the outside. It seems that you're paused. It's not a pause. It's an inner journey.
Yeah, it's the journey of the self. The self is growing through it.
Exactly. But it is not being rewarded that. The world of the capitalist world is not a place that you can have the luxury of in a journey. It seems a luxury, and sorry, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to produce. You are using the resources while you are not returning anything in return
Yeah.
to the society, and that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
This is how you are not allowed to sit with your sorrow, because somehow you're out of the market.
Yeah.
You are using the resources
Yeah.
of the of the collective, while you're not returning.
Yeah.
You're not producing anything in return.
Yeah. And it's very like we started with hedonism,
Exactly.
but it turns like hedonism as a very simple principle is different from what we call utilitarianism,
Yes.
which is more like a more moral idea, which talks about the purpose of all our actions is greatest pleasure of the greatest number. So ultimately the measure of morality, the measure of rightness is how much pleasure
you can provide into the outer world. Yes.
Exactly. So basically, your suffering and pain, if it's causing a lot more pain to other people, then it should be gone, because ultimately we want more pleasure in society.
Exactly.
Because more pleasure means more productivity, more gain, more engagement. I mean, again, we are linking moral to political here. However, that they are not disconnected. So the whole idea of what you call the colonial project and utilitarianism is basically prime time colonial, the liberal politics, everything
this
like
is a neoliberal. This is a neoliberal demand.
Exactly. So the idea basically is, how I can be more productive towards the society. It's only through the economy of pleasure, economy of happiness, which is very different from what we started with Descartes and Spinoza and Konatas. Even we can go back to the Greek philosophy, and they talk about the end goal of life, the purpose of life as eudaimonia. Sometimes it is translated as happiness. However, it is not happiness in the way we understand it, because Aristotle sometimes talks about the idea of in eudaimonia, a person might not have good health, might not have money. However, they would still be flourishing. They would still be happy because they would be living a virtuous life. So that idea of happiness or flourishing as the purpose and goal of life is not this narrow idea of happiness, this narrow idea of pleasure, this economy of achievement and gain, because it takes away the complexity of life. It looks at life through the lens of happiness and happiness alone. And in the end, you are a successful person, you had a good life. If you had, more happiness and more pleasure throughout, and if you had more pain, more sorrow throughout, then you lived an unhappy life, then you lived an unsuccessful life. So that's the economy of pain and pleasure, which comes a lot from...
I think it's a colonial
So,
really project of understanding the economy of pain and
yeah,
pleasure in this new world, because somehow you're experiencing yourself as a I use I don't know what it comes to my mind, but I use Hannah Arendt's word as a cog in a machine.
yeah,
You're only a cog in a machine of production,
exactly.
of a capitalist production. And when you are seen that way, so reductionistic
Mm-hmm.
way of understanding human being, your emotions and your inner life productivity never been placed in a position of acceptability and affordability.
Mm-hmm.
A capitalist world is not affordable. You living a capitalist life, you are not affording really the pleasure of inner life and inner work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So really sitting with such um, rich experience such as sorrow and sadness, it's a rebellious action toward the call of being productive.
yeah, and the happiness
It's
project.
not about really happiness. We are, as a therapist, we never ask you, no, go and
Be
go,
happy.
no, go and go sad. Why you want to be happy? We don't want you to feel miserable,
Yeah,
definitely. We want you to sit, allow yourself the luxury of sitting with your sorrow and sadness and go through that grief work, which is an inner work.
yeah,
Give it a pause to the productivity and saying a loud no to no, I'm not really the cog in the machine of productivity.
yeah,
I'm I am this self, and I allow myself the inner productivity
yeah,
by exploring what's going on to
yeah,
me. So I guess we are really we started from a psychological understanding and then on to existential understanding and then moral and political. But I guess Seema, by now we made clear, hopefully, we never really claim it, but we made clear to our listeners and audience that human being is an all-encompassing
yeah,
um, being
yeah,
with all the spheres of political, cultural, historical, spiritual, emotional, and social connected.
yeah,
So we cannot, as a phenomenological psychotherapist, somehow we're not allowing ourselves to dissect human being and their experience and the human being's experience into different and divided and detached
yes,
spheres.
yeah, exactly. I think it's very wrong to read humanity as black and white in the sense of like, you're happy, you're sad, and just running away from sadness and focusing on happiness, because, a life where we take away all sadness and sorrow and pain would not be a life worth living.
Mhm,
If
mhm, mhm,
you want to find a way in which you fix human beings in such a way that we do not feel any pain, we do not feel any sorrow, that would not be a human being. There would
mhm,
be no inner growth, no kind of connections with other human beings, because we discussed that with loss we lose a part of ourselves
yeah,
connected with that
yeah,
person, that thing, and that's growth.
yeah,
That is where your life becomes more and more complex.
mhm,
Otherwise, we are, I would even say that probably animals might even experience some
yeah, yeah, yeah,
complexity
yeah.
of these emotions that we have seen with so many examples, but let's not diverge in
Mhm,
that direction. But to bring it to the point that we have been discussing here, is that the point of therapy is not primarily to make people become happy.
mhm,
Happiness is a good emotion. It is
mhm,
an emotion. I don't want to say call any emotion bad emotion. Happiness is an emotion. It has a place in our life, and we need that. We
mhm.
need that openness of the world. We need that
Exactly,
openness of the
exactly.
possibility. But it's one thing.
Mhm, mhm,
And living a proper, complex, and developed and multidimensional human life requires that we actually experience all other emotions in their intensity, in
Mm-hmm.
their depth, in their multiple, like it's not like that experience it and move past it,
Yeah. Yeah.
giving it the time, the attention that it requires, and then also not actually finding them as you know happiness and sorrow as opposed to each
Yes.
other. They
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
interconnected.
Yes. Yes.
You feel sorrow because you get happiness from the
Yes.
same source.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorrow is deeply linked with that happiness, and so you cannot detach them. If you take away sorrow, probably you might not be able to feel happy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you
Mm-hmm.
feel happy and you
Mm-hmm.
feel sorrowful
Yeah.
because of your attachment,
Exactly.
because of your concern. So ultimately, when we talk about sorrow, sadness, what we want to engage with our clients is basically becoming more and more aware of that emotion and
Mm-hmm.
that part of self
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that experiences it, and then the person decides what they want to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it is something that they want to move past and maybe not worth keeping with them,
Mm-hmm.
that's their
Yeah,
choice.
exactly. Yeah.
Some person might like to keep it close
Yeah.
and never get past that, and it's part of their self, such a huge
Self.
part. That's their journey.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's not our goal to help them pass that sorrow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We help them process it,
Mm-hmm.
we help them understand it, we help them make room for it in their life,
Yeah.
but then they decide what they want to do
What they
with
want
that.
to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this session.
I know we have still so much more to say.
Yeah, I mean we can say forever. But I guess
yeah.
I'm hoping that our audience had a chance to and will have a chance to sit with these suggestions that we explored in and possibilities that we explored in this episode, and try to make new connections with their emotions, trying to really sit with their emotions in a say that let's not evaluate my emotions.
Yeah.
Let's not call it. Let's not saying that this is positive and negative. Let's sit with the emotion and the affect and try to understand what is exactly this affect. What is this language of the affect telling me? What is the content of that language, and because that language helps me to understand myself and my relation to the world better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for attending to this episode, and looking forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you and hopefully hear from you in the next episode.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Salima.
Thanks for
Bye.
Bye.